Nice to be here, man. I thought we were going to come through a corridor and I was just straight in.
So, what did you guys think?
Woo!
And more importantly, how about Kingsley's performance? You know, this movie has, I mean, I think there were hopes in the beginning when the Marley family was thinking about it. And then they watched it go worldwide. It made $180 million worldwide, outperformed any of the projections. 96.9 million came right here in the United States. They won BET Award for Best Picture. What is it like as you look back now and you made this movie that was this incredible success, but also something that's so much fun to watch?
Relief. It's relief. It was my first outing really in anything this scale. What do you call it? Like a big studio movie where you're number one on the call sheet and all of that stuff that you sort of one day you're gonna get to do that. And so I guess I say that to say, as the movie's getting ready to come out and you start meeting the marketing team and people start talking you through what the process of bringing a film like this out is, I was like, shit, this is really new to me. Like, I've heard about it through friends and I've got friends who have been doing stuff, you know, and like I kind of know, but it was the experience of doing a tour and trying to sell a movie and talk about a movie every day for 3 months or whatever it was. It was, I really enjoyed it. I think being a bit older, and we were just saying, I think because I worked on stage for 6 years straight out of drama school and kind of was a jobbing actor trying to get an episode of TV and a voiceover and, you know, just trying to make 25 grand to pay the bills, and so you can sort of stop doing bar work into act, because that went on for so long. You have I speak for myself, you have a sense of gratitude and perspective about all of this. Even like talking to you guys now, like there's no moaning, like there's nothing to moan about. It's just chill. Like, I love talking about Bob, I love talking about acting, I love talking about process. And so the tour really became about that, you know, like, I'm not a comedian, do you know what I mean? So like, I'm happy to geek out and talk about process and...
Okay, well, let's talk about that, and let's talk about the chemistry between you and Lashana. I had a chance to go down to Jamaica when they were shooting that final scene, that final night, and it was wild to see how many of the people that were involved in that moment were there. Rita Marley, so many people were there, and it was a beautiful night. But what I took away was the chemistry between you two, and we see it jump off the screen. When did you know that it was going to work so well between the two of you?
I mean, you don't know what's going to happen until they say, you know, action. But I got a good sense of 6 months of talking to Lashana and sharing ideas about scenes and getting to know each other before we started shooting. And I didn't know her before, personally. She is, I'm trying to think of words that aren't generic and cheesy.
Amazing.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I get such a feeling of like, she's a good person. She has no ego. She respects herself and her time. And so, you know, she's got boundaries, but she was like a shining, like, she was like a safety on that set. Whenever she was there, just like relax a little bit, you know? Like I felt like it's gonna be all right because Lashana's here. The best days were when Lashana was there. And because we spent 6 months talking and getting to know each other, and we kind of agreed on so many things, we had like a joint principle of what we were trying to achieve, which was how do you find a way of expressing the love between these two people in a relationship that everybody knows was really complicated, and everybody wants the gossip and the soap opera and the drama and the babies and all of that. Everyone's gonna want that, but how do we find something truthful, that's not cheesy, that comes across without words, which is a feeling of when you've known someone for 20 years and you share children and you share an experience, it's in like what's not being said. And so we spoke about that a lot and like how to do that. And I guess from a technical point of view, that's about ease. So when you really know someone, it's ease. So you don't need to do too much. And so it's just trusting that. And she has all of those qualities in her. Where she decided to meet Rita is where we see who she is, you know? Like I feel like to not play a caricature of someone, you have to find a place spiritually and psychologically where you connect with them, you know? And for me it was Bob's from the street, and like I really identified with his sense of safety. So like when you don't trust people, or when you've grown up in a certain amount of disadvantage, or you've seen things that you shouldn't have seen before you were a certain age, there's like, that's where the toughness comes from. So I think, yeah, Lashana and I both connected with Bob and Rita in ways that we connected with them, you know, and then sort of combined it, I guess, I don't know.
It was also so important for you to get not only the Marley's family buy-in, but other folks who were there, like Neville Garrick and some of the band members that were there. What was it like working with them each and every day? They were on the set. They helped you in certain moments interpret how Bob would have felt.
Every day, yeah. Just them being there. Like, you'd spend 6 months in a bedroom on your own, just kind of trying to figure out chords and language and all of that, and then you come in and you meet the community of people who you're gonna collide with to bring it to life, and you can never really prepare for that, you know. It's like Joaquin Phoenix says, you do all this prep in your room, and then you get on set and the door doesn't open that way, it opens that way. And so you have to, so it's a constant going to set and meeting people for the first time is a constant reminder of like, there's only so much prep you can do. But then at a certain point, you've just got to let go and go into trying to connect with whoever's around you and what's going on. And lucky for me, when I walked into that first rehearsal, I walked into a room where there were 10, 15 people who had just got off a plane from Jamaica who were all connected to Bob in some way, shape or form. The children of the parents who played in the band with Bob, and they were all Jamaican, and they all surrounded me. And they all came at me with just mad love. And they were like, we're here to support, you're the chosen one, and we are going to lift you up. And they saw me struggling, you know, like they saw me, it was intense, because I was scared, and appropriately scared. And I think the Jamaican community on the film, I think they saw that and they respected that. And I think kind of that's what they needed to see. I think they wanted to see someone who was gonna put their life on the line for the part. And for some reason I did, because I know Jamaicans and I know they'll come for me if I messed it up. So I did feel like my life was on the line, but...
You know what? It's funny you say that, because I want to tell you one of my favorite moments of the entire journey was at the Jamaican screening, and Kingsley sat by himself.
I sat at the back on the floor.
And it was the Jamaican audience, and the place was packed. The island was electric because they had waited so long for this. The red carpet was nuts. And he sat there and he watched the movie, and to watch the joy from the Jamaican people. It gives me chills right now because they were so joyful. And afterwards, you stood in the doorway and you greeted every single cast member from Jamaica, every crew member from Jamaica. You hugged them, you took pictures. It was such a beautiful moment. What do you remember about that night?
Thank you. It's funny. In the UK, there's the Caribbean community. So Carnival is the West Indian community. Because all of our grandparents came over at the same time, the UK community, there's a kind of togetherness of all the islands. And so I know Jamaicans, but I'm not Jamaican. I have a respect for Jamaicans. I have a respect for the Jamaican culture. And I have a respect for the language. It's the most complex. I've stopped calling it a dialect because I'm like, there's a version of that film where we don't understand anything that's being said. And that's legit. I understood about 30% of what Bob was saying when the family sent me all of those interviews. They sent me like hours of interviews of Bob that only they have. And I was studying them. And I remember not knowing, sorry, I'm gonna answer your question because I'm just ranting now, but what I love about Jamaicans there is they tell you, no one like overdoes it. They're just like, yeah man, you did all right. They're like, yeah, you did good. Like, you did well. No one goes too much. And I don't know why, it makes me feel at ease because you're getting what it is, you know? And some people tell you why they didn't like it. But they tell you the things that they did like about it, and it was nice. And so, I guess that was a crazy experience. It was a crazy experience to be there, and and I mean, do you know what's so funny? That the critics came out and gave us they gave us a whooping, and it was really hard to take because no matter if a film's good or bad or people like it or don't, the amount of work that goes into it, it's hard not to feel it, And then you kind of go whatever, you gotta take what people say. But the way the audience came in that week was so nuts. And it was like, is this gonna hold? Is this gonna hold? Because you can't get that bad a whooping. And then, you know what I mean? It kind of feels like, and the audience were just going, no, we liked it. And the Jamaican and the community back home, it's for the first time in my life, normal people were coming up to me. So people on the bus, in the barber shop, just older ladies and an older guy, or a 7-year-old came up to me at the Arsenal game the other day, and I was like, that's what's beautiful about this film, that it was made with a feeling of you want kids to be able to come to see it. And I feel looking back that there's an undercurrent in the film that isn't explicit. So there's I think the internal feeling of Bob's restlessness or unease and the things that he struggled with, it permeates film in a way that's not direct. It's not smashing you over the head with any idea. And I think we all connect with that on some level, and there's I don't know, I've thought about it a lot, and I don't know, maybe some things are not to be worked out, but I feel very grateful about the audience response, and to be received in Jamaica so well, because I was like, these are gonna kick my ass.
And it's wild to listen that they got every single little joke or moment. Yeah. There were so many moments when you go to the UK or you come here that people don't, it might fly over their head. There, they were in it and on it. Ziggy from the beginning said, I found the guy. He was like, I found this guy. This is the guy. And
mad, isn't it? I still it makes no sense.
But you guys, you built a replica of the Hope Road house. You hired Jamaican crew. You worked in Jamaica around the people. What was that like being in Bob's world also? Because you had your feet on the ground in places that felt so authentic.
Yeah, being in Jamaica was, the first time I was there, I was with two of Bob's friends. And they knew Bob from 14. So they knew Bob before he was famous. Lego and David. And we met, they came to the hotel and we spoke for an hour, and Ray came for a bit as well. And the music was a little bit loud. And they were talking relaxed, you know, they were proper relaxed. And I remember going, I don't know what I'm missing a lot. I'm missing a lot of what they're saying. And it was October, that was starting in December. And I was like, oh my God, this is a different language. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? And then and then I took Lego's number and I messaged him, and I said, I want to come to where you are. So I went down to Orange Street. I think it's Orange. Yeah, Orange Street, which is where Chris Blackwell's first office was. It's where Bob kind of wrote a lot of songs, and it's down in Trenchtown and Spanish Town Road and Ebenezer Lane where Bob first won the competition and all of that. And I was just there with Lego. He's going, yeah, this is that. And I just was with him for a few hours while he was telling me stories about things that had happened there with Bob. And it's just this surreal, like, this is so fucking mad. Like, you guys knew him. And Neville Garrick on set every day, you could just go, Neville, what happened when da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da? And Neville would be like, oh, well, you know, Bob would do this and he'd do that. And Neville was in the bedroom with Bob when Bob was composing a lot of that album, because Bob didn't like to write, so Neville would sit there with a pen and paper, and Bob would strum and kind of figure stuff out, and Neville would write it down. And I just thought it was such a beautiful metaphor that Neville was with us in that room, you know, kind of doing the same thing. Maybe they're just sentimental things that made me feel good, but like, it was a unique experience. And then I went to Jamaica. Listen, I met like 26 people in 3 days who all knew Bob in some way. And some people weren't easy, you know? Like, a lot of people were like, who are you? Why are you here? What's your intention? Why are you here trying to, and you know, and then you had to kind of like give them a sense of who you were and like what you're trying to do. And so it was really, and I was like, I get it. Like, I get it. If I was Bob's friend and some English guy was coming up to try playing him in an American film, I'd be suspicious too. But they all kind of, after a little bit of talking, they got it and shared some really intimate, beautiful stories that I held with me the whole time.
No, Neville grew to love you, and you know, I know he's looking down. He made it through the shooting, and that was the thing. He was there for the entire shooting. But what a great man, and all those moments that he saw. What was it also like to embrace this music that it feels like it's the world's music, but you were bringing it to life once again? I mean, the Exodus stuff, that montage of music. What was that like for you?
Do you know what's funny? I'm not academic really, so I don't have a good memory of like information. So I got to shooting and I didn't have an encyclopedic knowledge of albums and dates, which is scary because as an actor you want to be on set the person who knows the most about who you're playing. But because music's such a new thing to me, I don't sing, my concentration had to be on other things, like what is a chord and what is he saying and how do you sing it. So I kind of have this like overall understanding of Bob's music that I can't place. I kind of roughly know the albums and how they went and the journey of the albums. But the whole musical process for me was, for me, building a character is, you can only build the character out of the script that you have. So I was like, what's the theme of the script? The theme of the script is then the Bob that I have to build out of that. So I'm trying to find information about Bob that supports that theme. And the theme to me was a man's lifelong journey to find peace in himself, as well as out in the world. But it's the internal struggle of him that's the only way the process becomes interesting. So musically, to me, it was about understanding how Bob sings, how he creates music and why he creates music. And I think my conclusions were, here's a guy from the street who found safety in football and music and God. His forms of therapy were the Bible, football, community, and music first. Music was the thing that he did every day. Music was the thing that I'm so sorry I have to explain this. Bob didn't sing outwards like Adele, or like, it's not a presentation for everyone. He never opens his eyes. So he's singing like this, which is an internal thing. He's kind of singing inwards, which to me was a puzzle. I was like, what does that mean psychologically? And when I started working with a movement teacher, we understood that he's actually dancing from a place of tension. It's not free or loose. What happens is when the tension builds, it gets so much that it has to let go. Mm-hmm. And so there are these releases of tension that he's holding on. And that to me was mind blowing. And I was like, that's where I have to put my attention into understanding the psychology of that. It doesn't matter if I can quote Rastaman Vibration to you and Concrete Jungle and know all of that. This kind of doesn't matter. It's like, where is the movement coming from? And so to me, it's impossible to spend that much time with someone thinking about them in that way without it having a profound effect on your life. Because I'm constantly thinking about how I relate to my own feelings of, it's getting a little bit actor wishy-washy here, I'm sorry. But like, do you know what I mean? That's the only way you can make a performance personal. That's the only way you can offer a little bit of yourself to a performance, if you're trying to relate to them on that level. And so Bob, spending 2 years with Bob made me realize a lot of things that I had to work on as well, you know, that's the biggest gift of the job, you know, that you get to grow through each experience. I mean, if you can hold on to that, then you do all right. But
I want to ask you, because I immediately, once you got this part, I went back because I was like, he's playing Malcolm, he's playing Martin, and now he's playing Bob. And to embody such powerful and important characters, what does that mean to you that you were choosing and chosen to play those people? But also, what does it mean, that responsibility? Because every time each one of those people pops up on the screen, it means so much to so many people.
Yeah, I feel very lucky to have got to I feel just very lucky to have found a job that I get to do that is something that I realized I loved when I was young. So there are many different versions of feeling grateful for, you know, just the simple things. I do genuinely remember being as excited about my first episode of television and my first offer in a play and the first time I got offered 3 lines in World War Z. They're all the same kind of feeling, which is that oh my God, I'm so this is amazing. You know, so it's just a different version of the same thing. I think with Bob and Malcolm, what actually happens is someone goes, oh yeah, you got a job, and there's no feeling of elation because the responsibility hits you straight away, and you go well, I've got a lot of work to do, so I'll see you guys when you know what I mean? Your brain just goes straight to that. There's no I'm playing Bob Marley, didn't you know? It's no, you're playing Bob Marley, don't fuck it up, and make sure you on your guitar, and there's a whole bunch of work that comes with it.
By the way, you were on your guitar while you were shooting another movie, weren't you?
On Barbie.
Yeah. You were on the Barbie set, working on your guitar stuff.
No time to waste. No time to waste. Yeah, there's so much downtime on set, and Barbie, they had 5 lines in the whole film, so I was I'm going to use this time to get the foundational stuff, you know. When you're learning a guitar and singing and learning a language, you know that there's going to be 3-4 months where you're just doing your basic times table-esque kind of work. You need to get that in, so that's why you go, I better start as soon as possible.
This movie really was about 20 years in the making, and it means so much to the Marley family because it took so long for them to get this movie made, and then finding the right person. What will you take away from this experience? What is the thing that will stay with you for life? Because I will say this, so many people, when they go see the movie, you see them not just enjoying the music, like they're enjoying the music, but all of a sudden they're like, oh, that's Bob. Wow, I see, because he's a mythical figure for so many of us. And now all of a sudden they're like, oh, that's Bob, the guy who got slapped in the street by Rita. The same guy who figured out, Exodus in the living room. Oh, I got it, Now I get it.
Yeah, and I love that. There's two scenes that I'm so glad they kept in the film. One was when he smashes the champagne glass out of Don's hand, and then when he goes to get the chair, and the other one in the office when he's smoking and he says, "Behind this thing for my ego, Bridget," because they feel like two moments that are such an important color of Bob to understand the full picture. And I know we're trying to make a movie for children to see and families and to celebrate love, but I was relieved that they kept that aspect in, because I think all of it, Bob is who he is, and he created the music that he created because of all of that, the huge complexity. All the great people are deeply complex, and I take away, the thing I'll probably look back on in years to come is just the time with Ziggy from the beginning to the end. And I go like, that was so mad, to be talking to Bob's son, and Ziggy went on his own journey with this, which is not to be underestimated, like taking a headfirst dive into his dad's trauma and looking back at some of those things that he remembers as a young boy, and experiencing his mum's pain and his dad's pain. Like, it's easy for us to forget that, but like, I appreciate how unbelievably challenging that must have been in moments. And he was with us every single day. He didn't leave us. And I was like, yeah, people talk about families being on set, messing things up. I was like, no. Ziggy being on set every day was the reason why, anything about this worked. And I go, that's mad. Like, when people talk about Ziggy, I'm like, yeah, Ziggy, I know Ziggy. Like, it's like, I don't know Ziggy. It's like, I know him. And he remembers Bob, like he was 11. So he remembers him, and he remembers a lot. And that's like, I find that just so fascinating. Like,
it is, it's interesting you mentioned that, because one of the moments in Jamaica was that when Rita gets shot in the beginning of the movie, it was very hard for Rita to watch. In the movie theater, she was physically upset. Yeah. And then you realize, like, this is this family's real trauma.
Their life.
It's their life.
Yeah.
It's not a make-believe screenplay. I want to tell you, Kingsley, it is, every time I see this, it makes me smile, because I can say I know you. And no, it is, because this was a special journey. I appreciate your performance, man, what you did, and the joy you have brought to people with this movie. And I hope you all enjoy it. Oh,